Happy Sunday. This is Age on America on IntellectualRadio.com. I am your host, Hood Oprah. Happy Sunday. I got Keith in the building. What's going on, Keith?
Hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing?
We
Peace.
we got introduced by one of our coworkers.
hmm
He told me that we had some similar thoughts aligned and I couldn't wait to have him on the show. But before we even get off into the show, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping right off top. I want to again thank the ladies that came out last Saturday to the brunch that I had, the vision board brunch that we hosted at the Austin Library. I want to just quick shout out. The library is one of the last free government owned facilities in the United States. I think you guys should really take advantage of the Chicago Public Libraries. They have awesome courses. I know the Legler Library on Pulaski. They offer T-shirt making classes. They just had a spoken word event like a couple weeks ago. So check those things out. Make sure you get your library card. Reading is fundamental. Again, I want to thank those ladies that came out. Special thanks to Reality Premium Spring Water for sponsoring the water for us. He is a black owned Chicago West Side water company. Make sure you guys go ahead and support him. He's on all social media platforms. Let's stand behind him and rally and make sure we support him. He will be on the show in a couple weeks. So if you guys want to get in tune, make sure you be on point for that. Also, it is Autism Awareness Month. Today is World Autism Awareness Day. And as you know, some of you don't know, autism is a developmental disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact. The disorder impacts the nervous system, and the range and severity of system symptoms, can be widely. Common symptoms are difficulty with communication and social interaction, obsessive interest, and repetitive behavior. There is no cure, so early intervention is critical. I won't lie, there are limited resources in the city of Chicago for children on the spectrum. As you guys know, I have a son. He's 11 years old. His name is Darren. He is nonverbal. And it's been a hassle, getting the correct diagnoses, the correct teachers, all of those things to help him excel as a student, as a person, as a child. So I won't lie to you like it's going to be an easy thing, but early intervention is the best way to combat long-term problems as far as for autism. There was an article in the March Associated Press, March of this year, that stated that autism is now more common amongst Black and Hispanic children in the U.S. And even with the increase, a study published in January of 2023, found that Black and Hispanic children have less access to assistance. So again, piggybacking on what I was saying, the early that will be the best. And it kind of ties into my topic today about helping Black boys be better Black men. As I stated from the onset, we see that there's an increase in autism, but there are less resources available for our children. So it seems as though our children are sometimes doomed from the start. As I stated, Keith and I met through a coworker. He told us that our visions aligned. We spoke about some of the same type of topics, and I wanted him to come on and have an in-depth conversation about how our Black boys are wayward and ways to get them back on track. So I appreciate you coming through.
No problem, no problem. And it had to be done.
No problem. So I want to first go off and say about being proactive instead of reactive. What are some of the
Mhm.
ways that we can be proactive in helping thwart our young Black boys from being, wrapped up into, destructive behaviors and patterns?
Well, I think one of the first things we have to do is we have to be honest. In our community, for some reason, the truth really scares us. We don't want to admit it. We don't want to face it. We tend to run from it all the time. And I think a lot of it has to do with our ego. I know a lot of guys who, when you talk to them about parenting, when you talk to them just about being men, the first thing that comes up is their ego. I've seen it with a lot of women as well. As soon as you get ready to tell someone about their parenting, period, no one wants to hear it. That whole saying, it used to take a village. Well, the village is kind of burnt down. So now everyone is me, I, and our children are the ones that's losing.
So you say that a lot of us don't want to be called out about our parenting. So do we place the blame with us solely as parents? Are we being more friends to our children and instead of setting down those hardcore boundaries that are needed? And have we taken the stance of what stays in our house happens in our house and kind of push those society of helping our neighbors raise our children type of ideologies out of the door?
Well, it would seem that at least the majority of people I've met that they haven't healed the child inside. So they're living vicariously through their children, and it's not even it's not even to make them better or to make themselves better. It's really just to experience and do all the things that you wish you could have done. So it goes back to that. Are we teaching our children, what we never learned, or are we just doing the things we wish we could always done? And that's a real sketchy, cycle to get yourself in. So when it comes to that being proactive, and what can we do to change it, and the blame, and this blame game has been going on a little bit too long. Everyone's pushing the ball back and forth. We're playing tag, we're playing it with it. We got to blame ourselves, and that's on both sides. That's mother and father. Anytime that I've said anything to women to hold them accountable, I try to remind, especially when it's a one-on-one conversation. Over social media, it gets a little hazy, because you can't hear tone through
Absolutely.
text. But when we have that conversation in person, I try to remind women that it's always gonna be a part of that responsibility on a man. It's never gonna be all on you because you're my responsibility too. So it could
Absolutely.
never be all on you. So we have to get away from the blame game. It's both our fault. Okay, it's both our fault. It's done. Now how we get forward from here. And if we're not so caught up in the past and what happened, now we can really look forward. And no one, well, I shouldn't say no one, because there's quite a bit of people who actually are foot on the ground doing things, but the majority of the people who are kind of standing by are stuck in the past. They're not looking forward. You can't look forward if you're not healed. You can't look forward, if you got your everyday tasks running upside your head, bills, stress, all these things. So no one's able to breathe right now to even think clearly or think outside the box. So they're just making the box comfortable. That's all they're doing.
Do you feel as though the stresses of being an adult, as well as you said, unresolved hurt and issues that we may have
Mhm.
as parents, have compounded to the way that we kind of pushed our kids to the wayside?
Well, your children are going to emulate what they see,
Okay.
and statistically, even when you think about marriage, statistically, your child, male or female, is more apt to have the type of relationship you have. So if you're not married, your child probably won't have a marriage. If you are married, the type of woman as a man that you choose will be the type of woman that your son is looking to choose for himself. And it will also be the type of daughter that she's going to emulate what her mother is and what her mother does. So we have to be careful what we absorb. A lot of times we forget about that. We want to do what we want to do. We want to party. We want to kick it. We want to enjoy, our life, and we forget about who's watching. And they're watching with a close eye. And you talking about little stuff. We see it all the time with little kids. I mean, I got two sons and one daughter, and there's little things that I may walk around the house and say, and next my wife is like, he's acting like you. And I'm like, what do you do? Oh, well, you know how you normally will walk past and say, why is that on the floor? And then you pick it up and then you look, you eyeball everybody. Well, my son, I'm not home. He walking around. Who left that on the floor? You're not supposed to leave that on the floor. And he eyeballing him, like, pick that up. And she's like, he acting just like you. And that's like, that was indirect. I wasn't even at home. I didn't even say nothing to him. I'm like, okay.
It's funny that you touched about, watching representation matters. And I am seeing that there are an increase. Well, I don't want to say like an increase, but we know we had that one part of time where we were saying welfare were keeping fathers out of the house.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I do see that there has been an increase of marriages in two parent households as of, lately. I see a lot of marriages on social media. Even with that type of surge of two parent households and lots of marriages, and the fathers and stepfathers or whatever are in the home, why is there still a big increase of black boys going to the wayside?
Well, looking, I know what you're saying when you look at social media, because it's easy to see certain things come down your timeline and it starts to feel like, oh man, okay, this is trending. This is really making an impact or moving. But looking at the stats, there is more divorces going on than actually marriages that are beginning to even happen in this country. Um, and we might get some certain things misconstrued. Like for instance, black men are like the leading group of stepfathers. Fathering someone else's children. So, with that being said, things can be deceiving when we really think about it. And then you know, I don't know if you've seen the stats, but a lot of these red pill conversations, the podcasts that are going on, a lot of the men that are speaking, there's so many stats out here. And I know what people are going to say about statistics, and you do got to keep a watchful eye because it can be misleading, but it's a conversation starter. And at least it's something to back up the conversation. And a lot of stats are really showing that, men are getting married. Men are being at home with their children. I just seen one was talking about millennials and how back in 1958, I want to say about 40, I think he said about 43% of men, were openly testifying on a survey, just saying that they didn't want to change diapers. And now that's down to 3% for the millennials. So that was a 40% increase that's impacting. In 2013, there was a study by the CDC just showing that how the black men or black fathers compared to Latino fathers and Caucasian fathers, and it was showing all of their impacts in the home and with their children, and black men were leading that. And that was 2013.
I can agree. There is a negative connotation about the absent black father, and I know I come from a two parent home. I
Mhm.
tried to create one for my children as well. Everybody in my neighborhood came from a two parent household, so I know that is, it is a stigma, but it is really not as big as they portray it. And with the stats that you're saying, I just don't understand how do we have these central family nucleuses, and we still see so many black boys going the other way. And don't get me wrong, I see a lot of other black boys doing the correct thing.
Mhm.
We don't speak enough about them because that is not what's trending. We all see about the Kia boys and this and that.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, bad news sells and good news does not. But in your opinion, what is pushing black boys to the streets if they do have stepfathers, if there's more fathers in the home, if there's more marriages? What is pushing them to the streets?
Well, from looking at from my experiences dealing with mentoring boys and my experiences in the school, I've done some teaching in the schools as well and volunteer work. Just talking to them, they don't have a sense of belonging.
Okay.
We're inside a system that really, at its core, is saying we don't want you here. Talking to the young black boys, and why would it wait for them to become men? That's more apt for them to be out of control. They're stronger. We can't control them. So when you look at it from a controlling aspect or a defensive aspect, the art of war, take out the strongest. Well, why would I wait till you get that strong? I'm gonna get you early. So and there's that trope going around just saying how the one of the most dangerous places for young black men is in their mother's womb. You know,
Oh,
and we're talking about, and then we talk about abortion and the rates of abortion when that comes down to it. So if we're not aborting our babies, if we're feeding them all the wrong things, that can actually taint the chemistry in their body, so now they can be chemically castrated, which goes into what you were kind of mentioning earlier, even with the autism and things like that. And that's one of those daring conversations that if you don't have a PhD, you can't speak on it. But
Absolutely.
there's a lot of studies actually showing, the connection between all of these shots and all of the food that's not good for you. So much estrogen is in it, and everything that lowers your testosterone. And I can even remember looking up, um, and I forgot the actual stat on it, but it was talking about the drop in testosterone among men every 10 years, and it's dropping fast. So, with all of these things in place to dismantle young boys, you know, why would they want to participate in just your everyday society? They're looking for something else, and that's when you got other young boys, because and more than often, even if it's a full adult male, he still has a mindset of a young boy, because he didn't have his father. He didn't know what to do. He had to figure it out on his own. And they're advertising to these young kids, we'll take you. You could be somebody strong here. So they're pumping them with these words of affirmation that no one else is pumping them with. Between the either the dad isn't there in some cases, because it's not most. We clearly know that from the stats. But either in some cases the dad isn't there, or in some cases when the dad is there, who's ruling the household is probably the mother. So now we have that going on, that dichotomy in the household of a misrepresentation of power and authority. If you think in traditional versus modern here, and what the mother is doing when she's leading that household is now not allowing her to nurture her son in a more effective way, and is not allowing the father to really raise him to be a man. So if he see, well, dad is just, he at home, mommy run the house, we all know that. But I look on the street and I'm like, who them dudes running things over there. They telling women what to do. Why would I listen to dad?
Yeah.
I'm going out here where y'all at, man. Help me out on the street real quick. Let's see what's going on out here.
Now you touched on something earlier about, you know, the correlation between autism and immunizations, and that wanted to bring up my next thing about drug usage, pharmaceutical and street drugs. We see, the onset about, you know, ADHD
Mm-hmm.
and Ritalin, and we see even they even saying it's adult ADHD, and them like pharmaceutical companies pushing drugs on us, everyday drugs. Pharmaceutical government has taken over street drugs. They are now, dispensaries everywhere with
Man.
this manufactured marijuana. They also got an influx of drugs on the street. Kids are popping, antidepressant medicine, things that they
Mm-hmm.
don't even know configure and change the
Making up
chemistry in
stuff.
their brain. They taking uppers and downers at the same time. A lot of illicit drug use. How does that compound with, we setting our sons up for failure at birth with, what did you say, the sigmas out here in the street that don't want to do
Oh yeah, we was talking
anything,
about that.
the alphas who are, getting shot down in the streets. I mean, how does all of that compound with this drug usage on a developing young man? As you stated, even a 25-year-old may still have some type of adolescent thought processes, and compounding that with drugs. How does that change it? And can we break that cycle? Because that is what's taking over our young black youth now
Mm-hmm.
from 12 to 25 are these illicit street drugs.
Right. Arrested development. When something happens to you at a young age and you have not fully got through that trauma, and you remain that age that you were for a longer period of time as you continue to get older. You're still that age in the mind. And that's what's happening to those on the street who are leading the young boys. And then there's the cycle, it happens to them. And when you get back with these devices that are set up, right, we must be very wise, and we're dealing with Satan's devices, right? You know, the drug use, the drug abuse, and how the schools are going to label the kids, because they'll tell you to put your kid on Ritalin. They'll tell you to put them on Adderall, ADHD, and so many, because of ADHD. And there's so many other things. I don't even know the names of
Me either.
most of these
Yeah.
drugs. When I was listening to them before, I was like, yo, why is it this? It's a big category here. And of course, there's going to be some exceptions of children who actually may, need some help. I don't know if that's the answer, but maybe they do need some type of help like that. But um, they're systematically uh, targeting young boys for these uh, inoculations, for these drugs and things, because we know, which now that we out of the pandemic, big pharma runs a lot more than people think. They
Yeah.
pay for a lot more, they sponsor a lot more, they're in the back door and front pocket of a lot of different entities. So and they got to get paid, they want to eat. So why not be at the sacrifice of your children. So that, in the school system, you definitely need to get your children that outside help, because if you do not, they will label them. They will label them slow. They're going to try to put them in slow classes. They're going to try to get you to put them on some type of medication to help them. And we just forget that different kids learn in different ways.
Absolutely.
They don't all learn at the same pace in the same way. And that's why, in some cases, Montessori schools have gotten so much bigger, where I never knew what that was. And
Yeah.
then over years, it was like, oh man, this seems like more people are kind of going this way to Montessori schools, because they work with the kids at their individual pace and just have smaller class sizes. Well, that may be part of the solution we need, is working with kids on a more individual level, instead of grouping everyone together and keeping them at this one standard. You know what they say, if you judge a fish on its ability to climb trees, then it'd be just labeled stupid.
Yeah. No Child Left Behind really messed us up. I
Mhm.
mean, that was the first, in my opinion, steps towards dumbing us down as a culture,
Mhm.
putting us all into this teach us for the test instead of teaching us cognitive skills, social skills. That was the first breakdown of us, was that No Child Left Behind. And you spoke about big farm and coming out of the pandemic. I always say this every time, that COVID and quarantine, I don't know if they obviously they knew, but the impact that it has on our youth,
Mhm.
it is astounding. So many of them are now battling depression.
Yep.
They are lacking their social skills. They are now introverts. They don't know how to have conversations with people. They have, lots of anger issues, built up being in the house, just like they were in like segregation in the jail.
Mhm.
And I feel like that has compounded to a lot of the issues on the street. Once we were able to come outside, that was like, being let out free in the loose after being captive for a long time. And I don't think that people really understand the severity of COVID. And everybody, talk about therapy, therapy, therapy. Real therapy costs money, and unfortunately your medical card is not going to get it. We
Mhm.
don't have the resources to really dissect some of the issues that we're going through as adults, especially in inner cities, and then to, put all that pressure on our children and then just push them back into the world and say, okay, you ready, I think has been a great disservice for us. um, Gianna says, yes, proper communication is key, not talking to or at our kids, but communicating with them, ask questions, affirm their beliefs and goals. This is why RBTs exist, to help in classes and homes. It's an alternative to prescription drugs, and it works. I don't know what an RBT is. Do you? I don't know.
I'm not familiar with that acronym. I kind of understand where she's going with that. Um, yeah, I'm not. Maybe she'll end up commenting exactly what RBT is, but I know that is some base testing that does assess the psychology of children, and it will help. Um, it does help with like really focusing in on their behavior, and that may be what she's getting at, like a way to really uh, depict like what their behavior is, where they're at. So,
I want to touch, and I don't want to be insensitive to anyone. She said register behavior tape. I want to touch on
mhm,
this, and I don't want to be insensitive to anyone who's going to be watching or listening. But there has been a very big spike in domestic violence with men against women. We've been seeing it, all over the country, and I mean, I'm not a PhD doctor. Like I say, I play one on TV, but I try to stay abreast of news and things
mhm,
that go on. And I can't recall in my lifetime seeing this much domestic violence, especially with young black boys, you know, doing things to themselves, to their spouses, to their children, to their mothers. I have not seen this type of domestic violence before, and it's becoming to be a pattern that we're going into. What do you think has pushed them to this type of violent type of tendencies, and can we change that? Can we twist that? Is there anything that we could do to be proactive with that? I mean, I know the mind is a very fragile organ. It's the strongest and weakest organ that we have, and anything can make you snap. As we said, these pharmaceutical drugs, street drugs, quarantine, COVID, a lot has impacted our youth. But and do you think there's anything that can stop this? Because this is becoming an epidemic, and unfortunately, we live in a society now where we see it's a monkey see, monkey do. It's a
mhm.
kind of domino effect. Is there anything that we could do to kind of stop that?
Turn off the phones. Turn off the phones. Turn off the TV. It's a little too much peer pressure going on. Everyone's out here on their phones. They're looking at social media, which is probably the most influential thing out there at this time. With all the strides that technology has made, this by far has crippled people. We know that, like you say, the depression rates have gone up and everything because everyone's online, everyone's looking at someone else's life, everyone else is forgetting about their own life and to live it. So when it comes down to these kids and domestic violence, I don't, from what I've observed, I wouldn't say that it's a new epidemic. It's just getting recorded.
Okay.
Similar to like when when people say things about the police and what the police do to the black community, that it's just getting recorded. That's the only difference now. And everyone is so hooked on these. I don't know if you really want to call them celebrities or local
I don't know.
personalities or
I don't these people who trend. I don't know what.
yeah, everyone's so hooked on them, and we love drama. So that's what gets played.
My cousin said that we're addicted to drama
We are
and
because
toxicity. She
we
said
are.
that. I didn't want to believe that, but she said that we are addicted to drama and toxicity. She said, yeah, social media is making people mad crazy. Domestic violence is definitely not new. It's just being publicized more.
uh,
It was more hidden. It was definitely happening behind closed doors for a long time. I mean, I know that it's been, you know, I know that no mess, but I'm just saying about the younger crowd,
mhm,
getting into it, and that's what scares me because, like I said, with this social media, and we live in a society where everybody emulates everything. Is this going to be the new thing? Is this
mhm,
going to be the way that young black men and black women handle conflict resolution? Is that the way? Oh, okay, I don't like what's going on. This is what I'm going to do. I kind of get scared about thinking this is what's going to be the new thing because we don't have any type of empathy about death. We're
mhm,
kind of, numb to it. we see a body and it's nothing. It's nothing for us to take out our phone and record somebody on the ground dead.
Desensitized.
Very desensitized to violence, and we're getting younger and younger. Even when I spoke about the young boy killing his mother over the video game,
Oh yeah, I saw that.
it's just it's it's getting out of control. And like I said, is the onus on us? Are we the new aunties and uncles? Are we supposed to stop and say, look, these kids going out of control, let me help them? Are we supposed to band with our neighbors and say, I see your son is going out of control and there's no dad in the house? Or do we mind our business? What do we do? It's enough of us just sitting on social media looking at the story of the day and saying, oh, well, that's a
Mm,
damn shame, and moving on to the next thing. And it really don't matter until it's hurting our kids or it's
mm,
indirectly hurting somebody we know. When we see kids and we can help them, I mean, it was important for me to talk about this because sometimes I struggle with my own older sons. They are adult men, but they are still wrapped up into this whirlwind, as you say, of drugs and wanting to not knowing where they belong. How do we reach these kids? I mean, I'm so impassioned about this because I
mm,
really want to know, because there's other mothers who are single mothers who probably don't have a stepdad. How does she help her son? How does she reach him when he's depressed and is drugs here? How do we reach these young boys? And not to leave out the girls, but it's important for the young black man to be strong to lead, because
mm.
that's what we're failing at as a society of black people, is we don't have proper men leading.
That's That's very true. Men build kingdoms, women establish them. So if we want to get back to building, we do need strong men. This community, our black community, is like a matriarchy right now. Women are kind of running the households, they're running the community. Of course, we see the stats, kids out of wedlock. We see the stats with single parent, mother led homes and things like that. So it goes back to the ego, the pride, and we gotta let that go, because no one of us individually are bigger than all of us. So if we let that little bit of ego go, well, I'm sorry, a lot of bit of ego go, and really focus on the bigger picture, and we experience some humility while doing that, to really do the things you say and band together, so we can have those alpha men. When we were talking about that earlier, the alpha men will jump in and say things to these children. They will say things to these mothers. They will say other things to these fathers. I've done it. But the alpha men are the ones who get targeted, shamed, who get all the clap back, snap back in that chat, all of that. So, and the Sigma see that, and they're like, well, I could do what the alpha do, but I don't feel like going with all this back and forth and taking the bullet. All the alphas getting killed every time they try to start a revolution. So the Sigma's like, well, I'll just kind of do me, sit back, control what's right in my atmosphere, and leave it there. So we kind of got to look at that and say, we're giving the men that we want to lead the communities, to help bring everybody in. We need to give them their due respect. We need to give them that authority. See, we're still in this battle of power between men and women, and authority, and you know in the household and with our own relationships, that again, who's getting impacted by this? The children are getting impacted. Your children in the community are getting impacted. um one good relationship with a man and woman inside their household doesn't just affect their household. They can affect the whole block. Just by giving the kids something to emulate, just something to see. You know, and the kids are looking. I mean, I've seen, at least with the families that I hang around. I mean, it's one big family. The way that we all move, the way that we act. My friends know it, man. I die for your children. Nobody's child gets left behind in that aspect. I know they die for mine. I'm not. We don't worry about that kind of stuff. And it's, you want to open that up to more people, but everyone is really not on the same vibration here.
How do we get women to stop battling men? I know that a lot of women are probably not gonna want to listen to this, but a lot of the issues that we have in our society is because a lot of women want to be a man. They want to be combative, they want to be argumentative, and they don't want to listen. A lot of the reasons our children are out on the street is because we don't want to listen to the father, even if he's not in the household or not. We, take a stance. Oh, he left me. I don't want to hear what he got to say. He can't tell me how to raise him. He not here. Um, I don't want to listen to a man. He hurt me. Whatever the reasons. How as a man, how can we get women on a cord to help a man stand up and take the leadership role that he needs to?
Well, I guess addressing the women first. I would have to say, if having a real genuine conversation, going over those stats, showing, and I think a lot of people still don't know that a two-parent household, this at the same rate it produces successful offspring, so does a single parent father-led home at the same rate. Then you have a single parent mother home. So I think something just as simple as that, which is showing these fathers who are doing it by themselves, are producing better outcomes for their kids over the women. Just let that sink in and say, okay, well, they're doing something right. So how about we go ahead and continue to push for this? Hey, if you have a child, or and we talking about the black community especially, but if you have a young black boy, um, don't wait too long to get a positive male figure in front of him to help balance you out. It's a balancing act. We need both parents, but get that supplement in there early. Do not wait, because undisciplined boys grow up to be undisciplined men. Um, and I used to have a battle with my mom. I used to talk to my mom about this because I was in a single parent, mother led home, and my mom did the best she could. And I got no qualms about that, because I understood as I grew up that she couldn't do it all. So and even when I have conversation with her later, I was like, explain I know you couldn't do it all. So that's fine. And I had to get around other brothers in the community. I had to search out the father that I did not have. I had to search him out and find him in all these different men and pull qualities out, and things like that, just to, try to set myself up to be somewhat a standard individual, So I think that needs to be more accessible, is having good brothers in the light, so these young boys can see them, and having those mothers say, you know what, I can't do it by myself. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I can do it all, and I'm your mama and your daddy and all this. Let me help get you that help, get you to in front of some of those boys. And this is why mentoring and coaching is such a big thing. And we can go into that, because there's groups out here that a lot of people that probably don't know about, that are helping mentor young boys. And I have one myself. And
Shout it out. Shout it out.
my nonprofit organization, by way of ministry, is called Lamb the Lion. And what I focus on, that dealing with these young black boys, is really teaching them those life skills that you don't get at school, for one. You typically don't get on a day to day, because if mom and dad are both at work, who's with that kid? And it's either social media or the TV, or they're outside in the streets, and now they're looking for those other group of men to bond with and to hang with. Sometimes it's a good group. A lot of times it may be a group that's off balance, and they don't know which way to go themselves. So I typically, right now, I'm dealing with a younger group, trying to angle it a bit differently here, but the goal of my curriculum is really deal with young black boys at age 12 and on, because
I said 12 was the benchmark.
yeah, because at age 12, let's say back in olden days within a different culture, because obviously the culture that we're in right now isn't ours, it was given to us.
Absolutely.
But at around 12 to 13 is when a boy will become a man. So that's when you would take on a certain task or rites of passage to grow into that man, or to deem you worthy of being a man. And that's kind of what I took it back to, is that rites of passage. So you know what is required of you to be a man, and you know you have other men around you who have went through something similar to this. We're going to coach you through it, and let's give you the skills you need. And once you move into that, let's have a party about it. You're a man now. Now we're going to build upon that foundation and help grow you into the man that you really are destined to be.
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. Let's see. She said, well, I have witnessed parents befriend their kids, making their sons take the role as head of household, aka treating them like their husband, opposed to allowing them to be a child too soon. So I wanted to, the fine line between helping and hurting your son as a black mother. So your father-in-law,
Mhm.
Keith Renfro, he has this group, it's called on Facebook, called Raising Boys for Single Mothers. He's a clinical psychotherapist. And he had this meme that you shared to me that I just was like, blew my man away.
Mhm.
I resonated with it because, like I said, I'm having my issues with my oldest two sons, trying to help them be, but the best that they could be. But I'm only can do it from a woman's aspect. I'm
Mhm.
not a man. and
Understandable.
and this, I took so much to this. It said mothers who spoil, pacify, and rescue their sons from all obstacles contribute to a generation of weak masculinity. He'll be ill equipped to lead, protect, and provide, and will always depend on women to save him. I read that like, man, a lot of us women do that. We pacify our sons and we push our daughters. A lot of us do
Mhm.
that. And you commented like Willie Lynch syndrome. And I was like, man,
Mhm.
I never put those two together. I never
Mhm.
did. I've read the papers, but I never put those two together. And sometimes it takes an aha moment like that. So if you could just explain, to my guests what
Mhm.
the Willie Lynch papers is about and how you got that correlation and why you put that together.
Right. So when I first read it, and I post about it as a reminder, just to remind people, because it's so easily you could forget that these things were already spoken of before, and regardless of people feel like, well, Willie Lynch, was he real, was he not real, or things like that, the words resonate. Okay, we're still going through
Absolutely.
those particular processes. So in one excerpt, it was talking about the Negro marriage unit. And of course, there's another one I post a lot, was breaking down of the African American woman, but that's a whole nother topic, getting into that. But the Negro marriage unit, it was talking about how we'll remove the father, and of course, he's the strongest. We got to move out the protector so we can get to the woman. So you move the father out the way so you can get to the woman. When you get to the woman, now we can use her children against her to get her to negotiate, to do what we need her to do. Hey, I'm gonna take care. I'm gonna do what I got to do with your kids. If you don't want that to happen, you better do what I say. Because she is in fear of her children's lives above her own, she is going to cooperate. Okay, that is the maternal instinct to nurture her babies, protect her babies. And when they do that, okay, this is what you're gonna do. We want your young black male because we're gonna need him. So what she's gonna do is she's gonna keep him mentally weak, right? Dependent, all kinds of things, because she's always in fear of them taking him out like they did his father. So I don't want to make this young black son of mine too strong-minded, because they're gonna kill him. So I just want to keep him somewhat docile, dependent, all these things, and I just keep him physically strong, this and that. And I think there was another book, I forgot the name of the lady, not Dr. Francis. It was another one where she talked about that as well. How
That lady who be wearing that thing on her head.
no, not her. And she was talking about that too, where the women would talk their sons down. Oh, he's not that smart. Oh,
Mm.
he's no good. He doesn't know anything, because she's still trying to protect him, because he is going to end up like the dad, taken out and destroyed. So she's trying to protect him, making him mentally weak. And then what she's doing to her daughter is she's empowering her. Hey, at this rate, your dad is gone. They're trying to get your brother. You need to be strong. You need to be like me. You need to be mentally ready, because I'm under a lot of pressure. They're gonna put you under a lot of pressure. So I need you to emulate what I'm doing right now. So they're giving their daughters that nudge up, that mental nudge up, and which also, hey, but remember, you still got to be agreeable, or else they'll get you too. And that's what she's telling her. So what you have is a disproportionate and imbalance of instructions to the children, which are really countering their natural instinct to either be masculine and lead, or to be feminine and support. So now you have an invert of the roles, where now the woman, like, I gotta go lead and gotta do this and that, you know, to the men, or a baby, when she's in a relationship. Hey, baby, you just chill. I got this. And he's like, yeah, my mama said that to me too.
Mm.
So I'll just let you get it, you know. So that's
That's
kind of
that's
what's going
that's
on with
that's
that.
deep. That's deep because we see a lot of that.
Mhm.
That was deep. So this is the part of my show called Succotash. Succotash is Native American dishes made with corn and all type of stuff wrapped up into one. It's a part of the show where I let my guests talk about anything they want to talk about. It could be on topic, it could be funny, it could be reflective. It's the part of the show where I let you, the guest, take the reins. And I'm gonna definitely have to have you come again, Keith, because this was deep. I love to talk like
Appreciate
that.
it. Appreciate it.
I joke and play a lot of time, but my show is very socio political. This is the heart of why I do what I want to
Mhm.
do, because I want to discuss real topics. But nonetheless, what's your succotash? What you want to talk about?
Man,
Let
it
the people know.
there is so much I want to talk about, and I can't say it. I can't even talk about it. The only thing I can really get down to is, again, I touched on it before. There are a lot of men right now who are putting these programs together, who are foot to the ground. They're not getting a lot of advertisement, or they don't advertise a lot, because they're focused on the mission, as a man should be focused on the mission anyway, because we're not doing this for likes. We doing this for the community. So you're not on Facebook waving it around. So I mean, I've never really came out and told people, hey,
I never knew that.
this is what I'm doing. Like I've always said, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Hey, it jumped off, and I've been doing it along the way. But you know, I try to avoid the vanity. You don't want to esteem yourself too high. So I just try to keep it where it's at. I still reach enough people in my community, people that I know who talk to me. Hey, we get our kids around and things like that. Other gentlemen are the same age as me, and we talk all the time about how we can be better. Most of the guys, I know more men who take care of their kids than deadbeats.
I do. I do too.
So I don't
I do too.
know, this trope that goes around is crazy to me. Of course, that's my own anecdotal evidence, but the stats back it up. Like, we got to look at that. We cannot sit back and be so emotional that we just negate all the evidence, all the stats. We cannot do that. But some of those men who are doing things, I know off the top of my head, even though it took Umar so long to put the school and stuff together, he drops out a lot of knowledge, and he's a very big advocate of young black males. Jason Wilson, fellow martial artist. I do martial arts too. Shout out to him. Even though I'm still young in the game, I'm gonna get there though. But he has several books out. He has his mentorship program, I think, was over in Detroit.
I
There,
just was in Detroit a couple weeks ago.
yeah, he has one out there. His dojo. Um, I forgot the name. It's Cave of. I think I don't know how to pronounce it all the way. Ottawa, something like that. But that's his. And then you have there's a brother out here in Chicago, Sheldon, who has the Dovetail Project. I don't know.
I've
Ever heard
heard
of that?
a quick little anecdote. I was working at this place called Venue 610.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Michigan. Beautiful event space, and they hosted the awards. I was there the night that he got his initial grant for that, for
Mhm.
the fathers, the single fathers. I was there that day. He cried real tears. I was so happy for him. I've been following him ever since then. So shout out to him right fast. Finish telling me. I didn't mean to cut you. I just
No,
want to.
yeah, that was it. I mean, just even those, and it's so many more, and I follow them on Instagram, I follow them on Facebook, and they promote, some of them promote, some of them don't promote as much, but what comes down your algorithm, you know,
How do you change your algorithm?
I, you know what? I've been trying to figure that out because I'm constantly blocked, banned, unfollowed. You can't. Some people like, man, I've been looking for something you posted. Well, you're gonna have to type it in directly. You can't follow me because I may be saying the things that most dare not say. So, but there you go, and that leads back to those guys who is like, well, why would I do that? If I'm gonna get blocked on Facebook, put in Facebook jail, now I can't mingle with the rest of society, or why are you, causing all these confrontations with people and talking about the truth? Because the truth causes confrontation with people because no one wants to be held to it. So, you know, like we said earlier, you either are gonna choose to die for something, or you gonna turn around and scat tail up out of there. And I just can't do it, And I told my wife that before. I said, hey, and I've been married 9 years, and she knows how I am. I'm like, hey, listen, you know what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna say it. So it is what it is. I already got the will, the trust, all of that is set up. So what happens after that happens. So we just need more men to be willing to say things that matter.
Keith, how do we do that? Well, we have a very selfish society. We have a very, look at me, look at my accolades, look at my car, look at my wife, look at my house. How do how do we move that mindset to let me reach and teach? Especially when I hear a lot of older black men say, "Oh, them young guys, they don't listen. They'll pop me. They don't want to listen to me. I try, I try." How do we convey that message? Because I can't just go everywhere and be like, "Oh, I'm here, Oprah. Come on my podcast and let's talk about it." I try to do my part because I run into a lot of upstanding black men on a daily basis, and I always say, "Come on my show," because I think it's important, as I say, to not only change the narrative of the city, but of us as a people. Even when me having that brunch, all those women together, no drama, no problems. It was beautiful, it was blissful. How do we get that notion of, yeah, my kids might be good and my kids might be good, and I know I can't save everybody, but damn, let me try. How do we get to that point? Because the children are our future, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And we might be dead and gone, but guess what? Our grandkids are going to be here with these people.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get this sense of community back to save our children?
That's a probably 100-part step question, because first and foremost, we're all not gonna agree on how to solve this. We got so many people that are in so many different avenues and categories on how to solve and what the community needs, and we need financial literacy. Yeah, granted, I get that. Well, we need support from the government. Well,
No.
yes and no. We kind of need the free reins that come with some
Mhm.
support, but not controlled support, because that kind of got us where we're at too.
Absolutely.
The stab in the back move. So, that's it's hard to answer that straight up. But let's just say many hands make light work. So we do need to be unified in that, and we need to take one step at a time, one person at a time, one child at a time, to get to the finish line at some point. That's gonna be the first part of it, period. We gotta really try to purify our hearts. The scriptures say we in the last days. So as far as getting people to stop being vain and stop doing all this, that's not gonna happen. It's set in motion. People have already sipped the Kool-Aid. That's not going back. So we got to understand that too, that everybody's not coming. Everybody's not going to come along. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow, because I want us all to get there. And after reading so many books, watching so many videos, experiencing so many things, and talking to people, it's like, nah, everybody's not is they're not gonna get it, they're not gonna vibe the same, they're not coming. It's too late for some people, but it's not too late for everybody. So the people who are coming, we need to come together, and we are coming together. So the people that's not coming with us, they're gonna do what they're gonna do regardless. So let them be, and focus on the people who actually want to come along to make it to that end goal.
Keith, I really, really, really appreciate you coming, sitting down. Like I said, this was a topic that I've been wanting to discuss for a while, but I wanted to have a positive black male to sit here because this is a woman show.
Hmm.
It's always a lot of women, and I did not want it to come from a sense of male bashing because that is not what it is. I have 4 sons, I have all brothers. I am a very big fan of the black
Hmm.
man. I don't have those type of thought processes
We thank
about
you.
black men. Ain't this and ain't that. I know there are trials and tribulations, but as long as I know that you have enough ingenuity and pride and self, you can overcome any obstacle.
Hmm.
That's not just for black men; that's for us as a society of people all together. Like I said, I know a lot of mothers who have sons who are in the age between 12 and 25 that and let me a lot of them are doing good things, are going to college and progressing and doing well, but there are some who are falling to the wayside. And I wanted to just have an open and true discussion about some of the ways that we could try to circumnavigate this trend. I mean, a lot of us, quote unquote wokes say it's too late, but I'm a staunch optimistic. I feel that, like you said, change can be done with one person. And I have a platform that I could speak about positive things. I don't want to talk about what's trending and what's going on. We got real problems in our communities, and let's
Hmm.
sit down and try to get them together if possible. I really appreciate you. You're gonna have to definitely come along again another time.
I'll be back.
Shout your non for profit out one more time. Let the people know what. And I know we don't do this for vain, but baby, you
Right,
got to get
right,
this out here because
right,
some
right.
child might need this. Especially with the type of knowledge that you bring. Shout it out, please.
Right. So my non for profit by way of ministry is called Lamb to Lion, and we just kind of got underway. We just kind of broke ground on the whole operation, and that was a long time in the making. So now we're actually foot all the way on the ground, and moving. So there will be more things coming out about that, pages being made and things like that, so people can know where to send their boys. But as of right now, it's still, like I said, I have a small group of kids I'm directly working with, and then right now I'm still kind of partnering up with the other gentlemen so that we can all be on one accord as we disseminate to the youth and what we're gonna do. But the curriculum is good, and I I had the opportunity to do something like this when I was younger, so I just wanted to do it again. And I honestly think that there are more guys out here who would like to be a part of things like this, who are trying to do something and want to do it again. And we just, brothers, we just got to come together on this, because I know you probably like, man, I just need somebody to come together. Okay, well, let's do that, and now we can make some big change.
Again, Kiva, I thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This is a conversation I love to have. We came on a little late today. I'm glad y'all was rocking with me. I see y'all on happy Thursday. Happy Sunday to everybody.
Mhm.
Thank y'all again for joining us. I'm gonna have more in-depth conversations that are more imperative to our communities coming up this season. This is Age on America on intellectualradio.com. I love y'all.